Let's talk about the Green Bay Packers, one of the best ran organizations in the NFL. But right now, I do feel like the Green Bay Packers have hit a rough spot in the NFL playoffs. I have to start off with Coach LaFleur. In his first 6 seasons in the NFL, he has been tremendous. 67 and 33. That's the second most wins for a coach within having a 6-season span with a franchise. He's phenomenal. And I've seen him coach different quarterbacks. We saw Aaron Rodgers have career years with Coach LaFleur being his head coach. When you look at Aaron Rodgers in 2020, 48 passing touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Who was the head coach? Coach LaFleur. 37 passing touchdowns to 4 interceptions in 2021 in Coach LaFleur's system. The last season with the Packers, 26 passing touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Aaron Rodgers did take a step back, but it was more than just that. They traded Davante Adams to the Las Vegas Raiders, and since then, their wide receiving core has not been the same. The reason why I give Coach LaFleur so much credit is the fact that he was able to do that with Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. You could say those are both Hall of Fame talents, and you would be correct. So we go into a brand new direction. You have Jordan Love. They have made the playoffs in back-to-back years with Jordan Love being their starting quarterback. And the wide receiving core has not been one of the best wide receiving cores in the NFL. As a matter of fact, they're far from that. And it's not me saying that the wide receivers that the Packers have are no good. They have talented players. Don't get me wrong. Jaden Reed is the most complete wide receiver that they do have. We just saw him have 857 receiving yards and 6 receiving touchdowns last season. He averaged 15 yards a catch. Christian Watson, he has the potential to be the best wide receiver with the Packers. But we've seen him over the last few years, has been able to stay healthy. He just tore his ACL last season, and we've seen him drop the football in crucial situations. Now, the dropping situation has gotten better over the last 2 years. His rookie season, he had a lot of drops until he developed that chemistry with Aaron Rodgers, and he had that great game against the Dallas Cowboys where he had 3 receiving touchdowns. But Christian Watson is not a true number one. And I believe where he's at right now is a good spot to be an explosive outside wide receiver. He's a complimentary wide receiver. And the same with Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks. All of these wide receivers are talented. Don't get me wrong. But they're not game changers on the outside to help out Jordan Love. And we saw Jordan Love and his numbers take a hit this previous season. Now, a lot of that was because he was dealing with an injury. He hurt his groin and he also hurt his knee. And we saw Malik Willis come in for a couple games, and they won those football games. And their offense did not take a major step back. This is why I also say that Coach LaFleur is one of the best head coaches that I've seen in the last 6 years because of this. Malik Willis was not a good starting option with the Tennessee Titans. They shipped him off to the Green Bay Packers, and give the quarterback's coach a lot of credit. He helped develop Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. But Malik Willis is still not one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. So what did Coach LaFleur do on short notice? Because Jordan Love got injured week 1 against the Philadelphia Eagles. He goes out there and he feeds the running back in Josh Jacobs, and it helps unlock the offense for the rest of the season with Jordan Love. Instead of having Malik Willis go out there and throw the football 28 times a game, like how Jordan Love is capable of doing, he runs the football, works off of play action, and makes life easy on Malik Willis. That is what great coaches do. We've seen him work with Aaron Rodgers, which you could say is an easy layup because he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. But we saw him develop Jordan Love in his system. And he also went out there and he won games with Malik Willis. And Malik Willis came back into a matchup to help them win when Jordan Love went down at the halfway point of a game. So when I look at what Malik Willis has been able to do, give him a lot of credit. He worked on his game in the offseason. He built a system around him. Not too many coaches are going to do that with their backup quarterbacks. How many times have we seen teams in the past, a backup quarterback comes in, their offense takes a complete nosedive? And it's not me to call out those coaches and say they're terrible. It's hard to go from your starting quarterback who takes first team reps in every training camp scenario, who takes first team reps in all the practice situations, and to go to a young backup in Malik Willis. They threw him into the fire. And he looked like a serviceable backup this season with the Packers. A lot of that is because of Coach LaFleur and the fact that they had those offensive line pieces up front and they have Josh Jacobs. But back to the argument with Jordan Love. Jordan Love is a true franchise quarterback in my opinion. His first season as a starter, it went great. The first half of the year, he was shaky. But we have to realize something here. Just because he got to sit down a couple of years behind Aaron Rodgers, those first 2 seasons, he was not playing. He was sitting behind Aaron Rodgers. He was still learning how to play at the NFL level. Remember, this was a quarterback that many scouts saw as a developmental project behind Aaron Rodgers. They had to change a lot of things with Jordan Love because he can be a turnover machine at times. And we have seen this in the NFL playoffs, and we've seen this in the regular season. But his first season as a full starter, he came in and had 32 passing touchdowns to 11 interceptions. And year number 2 as a full starter, 25 passing touchdowns to 11 interceptions. And I'm going to say this again. He was playing injured. He did not look the same until the back half of the season. You saw him have a horrible pick six against the Detroit Lions. That groin was giving him problems. His knee was giving him problems. But when I look at Jordan Love, he's a gunslinger. The wide receivers that you have around him are not good enough. And I am worried about this with the Packers because you have other needs on your roster besides the wide receiving position. And I looked this up, and this is crazy. The last time they spent a first-round pick on a wide receiver was in 2002 with Javon Walker. Since then, they have not drafted a wide receiver in the first round. They can develop offensive talent. But I'm really worried about this. And I don't think that even if you do bring in a wide receiver in the first round, it's going to change that much with the Packers on the outside. Because you're developing these young players. You want them to be in your system. That's the ideal situation. And they've done that, which is great. But you need to bring in a veteran presence. I would have loved to see T. Higgins be with the Green Bay Packers. I would have loved to see DK Metcalf be with the Packers. But they did not make a trade to bring in DK Metcalf. That was the Steelers. Imagine DK Metcalf playing alongside Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks. That is the type of player that Jordan Love would love to throw the football to. Hell, imagine if Devontae Adams were to come back to the Green Bay Packers. But that didn't happen. You still have Stephon Diggs out there. You could possibly bring him in, but he's coming off a torn ACL injury. And oddly enough, I do believe that Stephon Diggs will be a very good fit in this offense with Coach LaFleur. But you have to bring in some wide receiving help because we've seen it in the past now. These wide receivers, they're good. But when you go against elite level defenses, and especially defenses in your division, it's only so much that they can do. And you're overcompensating for what Jordan Love has to do on the field in terms of him using his legs and trying to throw these wide receivers open, and they will drop some easy passes. We saw them get swept by the Minnesota Vikings. We saw them get swept by the Detroit Lions. Sometimes you just need a guy on the outside. Just tell him, go get open. Go into the slot. Go out there and be a major deep threat. They don't have that consistency with the Packers right now. And even Josh Jacobs came out and he said this, and a lot of the Packers wide receivers, they felt some type of way. I don't blame them. But he is right. Right now, the Packers wide receivers are not good enough to get them to a Super Bowl trophy. And we saw them just a year ago with Jordan Love defeat the Dallas Cowboys. They ran to the San Francisco 49ers, and you saw what happened. It did come down to a costly turnover by Jordan Love throwing the football across the middle of the field. He has those type of moments. But Brett Favre also had those type of moments. Aaron Rodgers, when he was younger, he had those type of moments. But you brought in a true number one to help out both of those quarterbacks. They brought in Jordy Nelson. You had Devontae Adams. You developed both of those players. You have to go out there and spend a first-round pick on a wide receiver, in my opinion, in this year's draft class, because you did not do it in free agency. You did not bring in one of those big-time targets. And it was going to be hard to do that. But I really would like to see them at least talk to Stephon Diggs, see if you can bring him in. But I believe the best wide receivers on the market, I believe that they're back to their teams that they started with, like Chris Godwin. And you have DK Metcalf with the Steelers. He got traded. So we could talk about them possibly working out a trade to bring in someone else, but I don't see it happening right now. And the reason why I say they had to spend a first-round pick this year on a wide receiver, this is not a deep wide receiving class. You're not going to find a superstar wide receiver, in my opinion, in the 4th or the 5th round like how you have in the past. You need a true difference maker on the outside to help out the rest of this offense. Because when you really think about it, the Packers aren't that far off. Even though this division is hell, you have the franchise quarterback. You have a great running back in Josh Jacobs. That was a great move by Brian Gutekunst. And by the way, I'm not trying to call out Brian Gutekunst and say that he's doing a terrible job so far with the Packers. He's done a very good job. Just had to bring in a wide receiver. Going out and getting Josh Jacobs was a great move. He had the 6th most rushing yards in the NFL, and he was a true bell cow this year with the Green Bay Packers, and they took a risk by bringing him in. His last year with the Raiders, he was not that top running back that he was the year before when he led the league in rushing. But you look at Josh Jacobs, he's phenomenal. You have Emmanuel Wilson behind him also, and you have Marshawn Lloyd. Now, I do believe that Emmanuel Wilson is the perfect counterback to have behind Josh Jacobs. Your run game is going to be good. with your head coach and Coach LaFleur. We saw this with Aaron Jones. And I believe that their offense took a major step up in that rushing department when they let Aaron Jones go. And I know that he's a crowd favorite. A lot of Packer fans, they love him. It hurt to see him go to the Minnesota Vikings, but both teams, they benefited. You did go into free agency and you brought in Aaron Banks, who's a very good guard from the San Francisco 49ers. You have Elton Jenkins and you have Zach Tom at the right tackle position. You have some good players on this offensive line, and you're going to need your offensive line to continue to get better and to develop, because when you go against teams like the Minnesota Vikings, who have a good front seven, when you go against the Detroit Lions, who have a good front seven, the same with the Chicago Bears and the Philadelphia Eagles, you need that pass protection up front with Jordan Love. And Jordan Love does have to step up in the playoffs. He does have to be better. But to see what happened against the Philadelphia Eagles, you can't place all of that on Jordan Love. The wide receivers could not get open down the field. The wide receivers, they were dealing with injuries. No Christian Watson. Romeo Doubs goes out the game. So you're dealing with number 4 and number 5 wide receivers at that point in time. And I know that they did bring in a free agent wide receiver, but it's not a big name, Mecole Hardman. How many times do we have to see this? We've seen Mecole Hardman go to the New York Jets. He couldn't catch on. And this is no offense to him. The speed that he has, he's a very good return man. He's not a very good wide receiver. If all you needed was speed in the NFL to be a great wide receiver, everyone that runs a 4.4 40 would be Hall of Famers. That's not how this works. Mecole Hardman would be a very good gimmicky player in terms of jet sweeps, and crosses across the middle of the field. But in terms of being that reliable wide receiver, I don't see that happening. He's a very good number 3, very good number 4 wide receiver, very good returnman. But I don't look at him as being a true threat on the outside that can help elevate the pieces around him. And that's what the Packers need. But besides the wide receiving position, and I do like the wide receivers that they have, the Packers, they're in a good spot. And we saw them, like I mentioned before, they got swept by the Lions. They got swept by the Vikings. Those are close football games. If you have a difference maker on the outside that can help out Jordan Love. And we saw it happen against the Philadelphia Eagles also. Those injuries hurt them and the lack of offensive line protection. But it's more than just a wide receiving position that the Packers need. The edge rushing position. And I'll talk about the tight end situation later on in this video. The edge rushing situation here. You have a lot of talent at the edge rushing spot. You have Rashawn Gary, who's a very good player, very good run stopper. He can get to the quarterback not on a consistent basis. 7.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble. He needs to have a counterpart alongside him. They drafted Lucas Van Ness in the first round. Only had 3 sacks this season, 1 forced fumble. But he's 23 years old. I think that he can develop and he can become a nice player. Kenny Clark, we've seen him have better seasons. Still a very good, impactful player at the defensive tackle spot. But I believe Devontae Wyatt right now is the better player out of the two in terms of getting to the quarterback and stopping the run. Kenny Clark is still a very good player, but we're starting to see him regress a little bit. Quay Walker, very good linebacker. Edgerrin Cooper, he's very good. I like Isaiah McDuffie. The secondary here, because their front seven, they have the talent. They just need to bring in another edge rusher. And I can see the Packers going out there and trying to do that in the first round. The thing is this, you can find an edge rusher in the second or third round that can help you out in the rotation. When I look at the wide receiving position, I don't know if you're going to find a wide receiver that's going to be a difference maker in the second or third round on day one. I think it's time to use that first round pick on a wide receiver. When I look at the edge rushing spot, let these guys develop. Let them play. I know that you see players like Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Aiden Hutchinson. They pop off the screen in year one. Sometimes it takes time for defensive ends and edge rushers in general to go out there and develop. It may take them 3 to 4 years. And Lucas Van Ness is not a bad football player. Let him develop in the system with Jeff Hafley. It was his first year as a defensive coordinator, and their defense took a complete 180, in my opinion, with the secondary adjustments that he was able to make because he was such a beast at Boston College when he was the head coach. Compared to what Joe Barry was doing, he was terrible as a defensive coordinator. You bring in Jeff Hafley, your defense did look better. Let him develop these edge rushers. You can bring someone else in the second or third round, but you have to use that first round pick on a wide receiver there. I would not look at the edge rushing position and basically panic over it because you have strong defensive tackles, but you can bring in some extra pressure by scheming pressure up. And we saw Jeff Hafley do that. When I look at the secondary, there is a problem here. Jair Alexander has not been able to stay fully healthy over the last 2 years. They're willing to trade him for the right price. I agree with that. He's 28 years old. He's going to be 30 years old soon. He's dealing with knee injuries. When he's on the field, glue corner, phenomenal. He's still the top cornerback in the NFL in man-to-man coverage, but your best ability is availability. When I look at Jair Alexander, he's a captain on the defense, but I am very worried about his body and that durability moving forward. But despite all of that and my problems that I have with Jair Alexander, your safety position is set. You got Xavier McKinney in free agency also, another home run hit by Brian Gutekunst. You hit it out the park last year with Josh Jacobs. You also hit it out the park last year with Xavier McKinney. He had 8 interceptions on the year, 11 pass deflections, 60 solo tackles. And you bring in Nate Hobbs. Nate Hobbs' previous year with the Raiders was a down year. The year before that, he was their best cover corner inside the nickel. Very good player. You have Keyshawn Nixon. There's a lot of upside there with Keyshawn Nixon, a very good player in his own right. And you still have Javon Bullard also, who you drafted out of Georgia at the safety position. He can play some nickel cornerback for you. He can guard the tight ends. He can guard the slot inside the nickel positions. You could bring in another cornerback just in case Jair Alexander gets traded or he isn't able to stay fully healthy. The Packers, they have talent. But you're in the conference right now. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles. What do they have? 2 number 1 wide receivers, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. The Detroit Lions, they have Jameson Williams. They have St. Brown, phenomenal wide receivers. Chicago Bears, they have DJ Moore. They have Roma Dunze, a young and up-and-coming wide receiver. Even in your own division, you may have the weakest wide receiving core. You look at what the Minnesota Vikings have. We'll see what JJ looks like in year number 2 when he's able to play a full season. He's coming off that torn meniscus injury. But they have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. And we have seen teams do this in the past. When Patrick Mahomes was developing on the bench with Alex Smith, who did they already have there for him? Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, a great wide receiver, a great tight end. And they brought in Sammy Watkins to be a very good number 2 at the time. They invested in the wide receiving core. I know that you want your wide receivers to develop with your quarterback. You want them to be on the same time frame. And I agree with that. But when those wide receivers aren't able to step up in big moments, bring in a veteran wide receiver they can build down that chemistry with. And I know the argument with Stephon Diggs may be, hey, he's too much of a diva. Because the one thing the Bills did get right, and the Bills have gotten right over the last 5 to 6 years, they brought in Stephon Diggs to help out Josh Allen. They helped him develop. And look at Josh Allen without Stephon Diggs. He had a positive impact on his play. I know on the sideline, he's yelling at Josh Allen. He's basically like, man, give me the football. But his veteran presence did help uplift the team. And has helped Josh Allen out even after, since they traded him to the Houston Texans. Hell, the Houston Texans, they had Nico Collins waiting in the wings for CJ. They brought in Stephon Diggs. You have to bring in perimeter players on the outside to help out your young quarterback. I know that Jordan Love has been in the league for some time now, but he didn't play his first 2 years. Playing experience is different from just having NFL experience. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about the Green Bay Packers in their wide receiving position? And I did mention that we're going to speak on the tight end situation at the later part of this video. Tucker Kraft is their number 1 option. Tucker Kraft is a very good player. 707 receiving yards, 7 receiving touchdowns as a tight end. And the reason why I say he's their number 1 option, certain times when you look at it, Coach LaFleur makes him the number 1 option on the field, 2nd and 3rd down. And we saw Jordan Love get in trouble with this against the Philadelphia Eagles when it was a predetermined read and you saw him slip down. Tucker Kraft slipped. He throws an interception to Zach Bond because he was a predetermined read. He's a superstar tight end. He may not post up the numbers like Travis Kelce in his prime, and the same with Brock Bowers now, and also with George Kittle. But what Tucker Kraft is able to do as a blocker, in terms of having those tight end slip screens that can go to the house for 50 to 60 yards, that's what Tucker Kraft can do for you. And Luke Musgrave is a solid backup tight end. But Tucker Kraft, I like him a lot. I am a huge fan of Tucker Kraft, and I believe that he's a true number 1 tight end. So you have the tight end spot down. You have the offensive line pieces down. You have a very good running back. I'm a huge fan of your quarterback. The Packers, they're a good football team. Just need to bring in some more help for Jordan Love. But if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys to stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.